Good afternoon. We are Team MOAA, and we are going to give you a quick introduction into our client's requirements. Our team consists of Austin Anderson, Isaiah Simpson, and Nathan Lee, and myself, Arturo Avila. MOAA stands for Military Officers Association of America. They're a nonprofit veteran organization that has three lines of effort. The first one is advocacy for service members, legislative collaboration with other nonprofit organizations such as the American Legion and the VFW, and then transitioning support for separating service members who are on their way out of the military service and still need additional support in meeting their needs and their requirements, which are individual, sometimes based on monetary or financial need, sometimes based on veteran administration needs. Military associations typically support veterans in many ways with either education or medical support. And then the final platform is the mobile application development that we are actually working for them. So they came as a client with a requirement for a mobile application. The concept was that the mobile application needed to be user-friendly and intuitive to navigate. MOAA is a older demographic of users, so the need for the application to be easy to navigate was critical. It also, in the development phase, needed to have a cross-platform capability, both iOS and Android. And it needed to be able to synchronize well with their web page on the internet. One of the things that I failed to mention earlier was that our client is a local chapter. So an additional requirement for the development phase was that it had to be able to grow as an application, whether it was incorporated by other organizations within the MOAA or even accepted as a national level application. For its implementation, for the backend, we are using Azure, and that is based off of MOAA's already established relationship with Microsoft. They have a nonprofit relationship with them that allows them to have some financial help when developing or using their Microsoft licenses. And then for the front end, we're using React Native. So the user requirements, the application needed to be simple and easy to use and easy to be familiarized with. It had to give the ability to log in or sign up and create a user account. And then in addition, there also needed to be the ability to have a guest user function. The app requirements, in essence, needed to be able to access hyperlinks, reference any relevant information, be able to view scheduled and upcoming events for the association, and then have a discussion forum for members to be able to interact in a digital social media style way. I'm going to pass it off to Austin, who's going to cover some of the non-functional requirements.
Hello, getting started with the non-functional requirements. A lot of the same requirements as most applications have. Performance, it needs to be acceptable, needs to be responsive, can't be lagging all the time. Space, since we are dealing with an older generation, in many cases, they'll have older technologies that may not be able to handle large loads. So we need to be mindful of how much space it takes up on their device, as well as the back end, because the more you store in the cloud, the more it costs. Scaling, as mentioned earlier, we could go from having potentially anywhere from 0 to 300 people with the local chapter. But if it gets scaled to national, it can go from potentially 30,000 people. So we have to be mindful when creating this application that it may need to scale quickly and efficiently. Obviously, it needs to be reliable, secured, and also it needs to be able to be maintained once we pass the finished project off to the client. And also, lastly, and most importantly, it needs to be cost effective. Since it is a all dues and donation nonprofit organization, it has to stay within the cost range that Microsoft allows them to have. And then here, this is the design concept of the app. We're using the same color scheme as their logo, and it fits pretty nicely. We have very clear wording when it comes to the different pages. And also, since it's older generation that will be using it in many cases, you'll notice that the navigation screen will have both icons and the names of the pages that are associated with it. And as an extra feature of that, we wanted it to be simple and easy to use. That tab that comes out from the side will have multiple ways of closing it and changing between screens, just to make sure that it's very simple and easy to go from one page to the next and to open and close it when needed. And next, we're going to look at the architecture. It is a serverless architecture, and the way we have designed it is the client will be able to interact with our function apps, the authentication services, and blob storage. And at no point will they actually interact with the database. That will all be handled and verified by our serverless architecture. Then I will pass it off to Isaiah for the next few slides.
All right, so the client's mobile interface requirements were for the app to be able to fit on most mobile devices, no matter the type of smartphone they have. The features will always be visible and usable. The app will have an easy to understand button layout and functions similar to Instagram and Facebook that many people are familiar with. Members will also have their members will also have their own profile, including a picture of them and their contact information. Using this contact information, members will be easily able to communicate with each other through the app's chat function, and the app will also be able to keep track of data such as meeting minutes and charter documents that have been in the app. To help us accomplish this will be some of the applications we used were the Cosmos database and other Azure features when designing the app. I will now pass it on to Nathan for the system specifications.
Okay, so our system specifications include a serverless architecture because it will be cost efficient while giving the maximum performance. It is cost efficient because it is able to scale horizontally. That works by cloning, and when users request certain functions, the serverless architecture, it will clone itself to the amount of users that are requesting the functions, and once those requests are finished, it will scale itself back in. We will also be using a document database in a JSON format because it will remove the need to translate files and other data before reaching the user. And this will remove overhead and add needed support for relational database for the relational database. Our client application will utilize React Native, which is basically a translator, so that we will only have to code once, and it will translate across different platforms that everyone is using. Our continued development includes React Native, Azure Function, and Cosmos DB as mentioned. We will also be incorporating NoSQL to facilitate client memberships because the membership is needed to access the authorized and verified areas of the app. Alongside the membership side of the app, we will also provide a guest mode, which is not as detailed or as deep as the client app, as a client mode of the app, but it will still provide basic functions. We will also be collaborating with the client so that we can further refine the app, and safety is our top priority because since we are keeping all the data must be protected and encrypted, and we must also keep the database private. Due to the elderly user base, we need to minimize risk. So for that, we are disallowing users to hand out their phone number and email. Other safety aspects include app authentication, API securing, and security testing.